Hello, everyone. Today we are live on SEO Leadership. We have a Thursday guest, and it's such a special guest that we have on today as well. So we have a special day for a special guest. We have Mordy, the head of SEO brand at Wix. He also has just recently founded Unify Brand Marketing about a month ago. He just went live, which is very exciting. Mordy has been in various leadership roles from Wix to communications at Semrush and also the CMO at Rank Manager. While brand marketing is Mordy's passion, he also manages to combine this with his SEO expertise. So if anyone is listening and is interested in brand marketing and SEO and the relationship between all of that, Mordy is your guy. Listen to the full thing today because we're going to be speaking a lot about it. And yeah, Mordy, thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday. How are you keeping?
Yeah, thanks for having me. By the way, thanks for being so accommodating to my lack of Friday availability. Very cool, y'all.
Of course, man. Of course, of course. Yeah, Mordy, I think if we can sort of get into the first question just being how you got into SEO, and if you can tell us a little bit about your career progression and how you got into where you are now at Wix, that would be great.
It was an accident, like everybody else. I just fell into it. Everybody, there should be a book of like everybody's SEO stories, like an encyclopedia. But basically, I was a teacher. I was something before that also in Baltimore for a while. And then I moved and I got hired by an educational software company to write teacher courses and teacher materials and all sorts of stuff. And I was one of the only native English speakers of the company at that point. And they said, hey, could you write web copy? I'm like, y'all, I could write anything. Lay it on me. And they're like, okay, can you get web traffic? And I'm like, sure. We want organic traffic. I'm like, I can do that. What's organic traffic? And that's how I got into SEO. It's just like reading. I think I started reading the Search Engine Land periodic table of SEO. I don't know if they still have that or not. That was great. Remember that? And one thing led to another. Did some consulting. I went to Rank Ranger, which got bought out by SimilarWeb. I was their content manager for a while. I became their CMO. I got recruited by Wix. A friend of mine, who was actually a client over at Rank Ranger, went to Wix to work on the SEO product. It's like, hey, they're looking for somebody to go around and do like some like marketing about the SEO stuff that we're doing, that we're working on. So he recruited me to Wix. I came on to Wix. I was there for about a year. Then I went to Semrush to be their head of communications. Wix recruited me back. I still consult for Semrush, and now I'm working as the head of SEO brand. This is a I feel like that's soap opera. And now I'm the head of SEO brand at Wix, where I work to position the Wix brand around being a leader in SEO. And on the side, I also run Unified Brand Marketing, which is a brand marketing consultation, so brand strategy stuff. Because I hit that intersection of SEO really well and brand marketing really well, and I kind of wanted to push myself, to the edge of what I can do for brand. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Love it.
I wanted to ask because I think Wix has been absolutely smashing it with their brand at the moment, especially just pushing SEO content and courses out there as well. How have you sort of tackled brand development at Wix, and what do you think makes for a strong brand?
Oh, such a good question. Okay, so Wix was a peculiar case because Wix already had a very strong brand, but not a great brand around SEO. And it was a matter of repositioning that. And I find when you're dealing with a toxic situation in brand, like the most important thing you could possibly do is to identify like what's the diagnose, like what is the exact issue? Is it a product issue? Is it just like toxicity issue? And that was really the thing. There was just this weird toxic relationship between the SEO community and Wix. And there's a whole like backstory to that and how that happened. I call it like a comedy of errors. Like it originally started with, there was a Super Bowl commercial where they had someone, like a famous celebrity talking about Wix for 30 seconds. And one of the lines they wanted to hit on, this is an interesting point, is SEO, because to the Wix user, SEO is super important. I think there's an inherent connection that they're aware of between their website and Google. So SEO is really, really one of the hottest topics among our user base. So they wanted to fit in a line about SEO in a 30-second Super Bowl spot, which you can't do with any nuance. And SEO took that the wrong way. There was a whole issue with the platform way like 15 years ago. Wix is old. Wix is 18 years old. It was originally built on Flash. So really diagnosing that issue, like what exactly is the issue? And at that point, it wasn't a product issue anymore. It was simply a toxicity issue. You have to, when you're dealing with that as a brand, you have to de-escalate. It's like, imagine you have a kid and like, they're having a temper tantrum and you're yelling at them and they're yelling at you, and you have to de-escalate that situation. And the way to de-escalate that is to steer into the skid. And brands have a very hard time with this because it's very uncomfortable. And the reason why we were successful with doing it, because Wix was not uncomfortable with doing it. And they say, go ahead. Like, they put it on my back to do it. What could we be doing better? Like, let me hear you. It's like, sometimes when you just listen to the voices screaming out there and you give them that ability to be heard, it de-escalates. Now, once you de-escalate, now you have to decide, okay, now what's the best strategy and when? But that was fundamentally the approach at the way beginning of this, which I think is like in 2019. I'm not good with years.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I think sorry, Darius, to build off of that question onto a success story on how this came about. Can you tell us a little bit about the SEO courses that you guys just launched now with Wix, and tell us a little bit about that journey? I mean, I can imagine it sort of like came off of the back of all of this, and what inspired it? How did you guys put it together? And yeah.
I mean, so that's like an interesting story. There's a lot of components to that story. There's like the course itself and like the wider strategy around things like the course. So I'm a big believer that like one thing you do in brand should naturally lead to the next thing. Like, you should know what the next thing should be. You should be sitting there thinking, okay, like, what's next? If you're able to sit back for a minute, realize like, where are we now and what's on the verge of being possible for us, you should go there. And it should be, I won't say like 100% clear, but it should be relatively clear where the next logical move should be. And sometimes there's more than one logical move, and that's fine too. For us, after we got rid of that toxic relationship, SEOs really started, there was a narrative there. There was something meaningful about this. And that always goes back to like what I say about brand, like there has to be something meaningful about it. There's something meaningful about a big brand saying, you know what? We didn't do right. We're going to switch this. That is a very interesting and very rare and very meaningful thing to happen. Once you're able to grab that meaning and showcase it out there, people just gravitate to meaning. Like, we're creatures of meaning more than we are, say, creatures of utility. And the brand started getting momentum. Like, God, this is really interesting that we're putting out new products. And it started to get momentum. This is really what you want to happen after that meaning building activity or phase. We said, hey, look, like, we would really like to be like a mainstay in the SEO space. Not like, okay, we're a platform, we have an SEO offering, blah, 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 because SEO was core to Wix. I think SEO was core, I'll take that back. I think SEO was core to any website builder for the reason I mentioned before. So we said, like, we want to be an actual part of the SEO community. And the only way, in my opinion, or the best way to do that is education. You have to put something meaningful back. You can't just take, like, yeah, Wix is great, here's our product. You have to be able to give something back. If you want to be part of a community, you have to give something back. I always use Aleda Solis as an example of this. Aleda's always giving back something. SEO FOMO, she has a new news thing, she's doing events, she's always giving something back. So that's why we created the SEO Learning Hub that we have. The course itself came about because we wanted to level up the ability of our partners. We wanted to offer them a resource that they can use, that when they're offering SEO services, or if they're offering SEO services, they have a resource they can go to really like dive deep and to really learn SEO and take their SEO to the next level. That's how it started. As much more of an internal thing. It's going back probably like 3 years ago. At that point, we said, like, why don't we just do an SEO course for everybody? We can do it for free. We have the ability, this goes back to the giving back thing. We have the ability to do a high level production. We can pull in some really great people. It could be free. You don't have to sign up. Like, there was no sign up. We're not even collecting your email. You just go, you take the course. And that's it. So we looked at it as an opportunity. And obviously there's a brand play in there, but of being able to offer something that people weren't doing. Like, yes, there are many free courses. Not many free courses are of that quality where they're not trying to collect your email at the same time, kind of thing.
Excellent. And Mordy, on that, once you establish that brand authority, how difficult is it to actually maintain that going forward?
It's such a mistake people make because they think like, okay, we have it. Now we're done. But that's not how it works at all. Unless you maintain it. I see brands do this all the time. They capture an audience, then okay, let's grow the audience. Now let's pivot to the next audience. And instead of actually, and you can pivot to more audiences, right? Like, for example, we've pivoted a little bit out, but now we talk a lot about like PPC also on the hub. Like we have a daily series with Barry Schwartz. It's new. And we have Greg Finn covering PPC. So it's not just SEO. So you can pivot, you can expand, but if you forget your core audience, they will forget you very quickly. It's a huge mistake people make.
I think one thing that I really appreciate about your approach is that you are consistently opportunistic as well. And I think my question to you is, how do you maintain that sort of mentality of being opportunistic?
You would have to want to feed your family, I guess. No, it's my mentality. I don't know, but I'm sure there's a million ways to do this, and I'm sure people have different ways of doing it that are way, way different than what I'm offering right now. My general mentality is that if you have something, if you have a narrative, you have something that's meaningful, and you can use that to start gaining traction and momentum, new opportunities will open up automatically. And it's just a matter of listening and seeing what's there and going for them. And it's a little bit unsettling because sometimes you want to plan out, okay, like, I want to get X. And sometimes you can do X. We're going to do X. We feel that'll open up Y door and we'll get Z. But a lot of the time, like, life is not as linear as that. Life is not as concrete as that. And you have to be able to kind of go like, okay, I know if I do X, it's going to open up a lot of doors. People will be interested. People will connect with us. People will see us a certain way. And that's a very big part of it. How do people see you? And it's a hypersensitivity because everything you do in every possible way is a signal that people will take and think about you a certain way. So you really have to be hypersensitive to how you're being perceived. And if you can tap into that, and if you can be comfortable with the fact that you might not know what's coming, but you know something will be coming if you do this, then it's just a matter of like keeping your ears open and your eyes on the ground, kind of your ears to the ground kind of thing, head to the ground. I don't know what that phrase is. So you can pick up on what's actually happening, and you can like kind of grab those opportunities as they come up for you. That's what works for me.
Awesome. I love that. Just to sort of build on that, another thing that I really liked about the SEO course that you guys are doing and building the community aspect, you guys have sort of, I want to personally say, mastered building up an SEO community with Wix, and that was part of your efforts, with Wix. So I think mine is sort of a two-part question, which is, what do you think drives reputable and authentic SEO communities? And what are your wishes for the SEO community in 2025?
Oh, okay. That's a hot button issue. I think, and again, this is what's hard for people in general, like taking your foot off the gas pedal kind of works for a community, right? If I'm going to create a community, let's say I open up, a Slack community, and I have whatever product, I'm going to open up for my brand consulting a Slack community. And I'm going to push there every hour some kind of like thing of like, don't forget, I do this. Like that doesn't work. And I think people need to take their foot off the gas pedal, especially now in the ecosystem that we're in now, the mentality that people have now, which I think is a good mentality, off that gas pedal so much more than they currently do. And again, it's counterintuitive because you're like, oh, if I take my foot off the gas pedal, then I won't get the conversion, then I won't get the click, then I won't get the this, and then I won't get the that. But the truth, it's the opposite. The more you take your foot off the gas pedal and the more you just kind of give people space and breathing room, the more that they'll make a decision on their own. And that's really the key thing here. What we've always done at Wix, we've consciously pushed this, is take the user to the point where they're making a decision and then just let them make that decision. Do you like Wix? Do you not like Wix? Do you want to use it? It's your decision. I will lead you right to that line. And that line is like, sometimes blurry. And then just leave you to make that decision. Either whatever you choose is your right, and I respect your choice. I think if you want to do a community, you have to be able to do that. For the SEO community, can we just pick one platform? I can't be on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Blue Sky. I can't. It's like, it's madness.
It's hard to follow.
I feel like I was literally replying back to Barry Schwartz on Facebook, Blue Sky, and Twitter on the same thing. I'm like, dude, I already replied back to you on Blue Sky. I don't know what the answer here.
And Reddit. Yeah, awesome. Darius?
And Mordy, just on that, I know you've touched on a few with taking your foot off the gas pedal and stuff like that, and you mentioned about like toxicity earlier on, but what do you see like the biggest mistakes that brands are making at the minute? Doesn't have to be ones that you're working with, but others. I know we saw like Jagger recently really sort of missed the mark with that advert and caused quite a sort of backlash, and it has been all over LinkedIn. I think people are almost sick of it hearing about it now, even though it's only been about a week or so. So any other sort of big mistakes you sort of see?
Everyone, it feels like everyone's making giant mistakes right now, which is great. Yeah. Like a lot of like stuff to talk about. Coke and the AI commercial, big mistake. Yeah. Oh, you have so much money. Just use real people. Leave the polar bear to the AI. That's fine. What are you thinking? You saw the Toys R Us commercial that looked like crap. What are you thinking? Which is really the problem. The whole AI chasing is an enormous problem. Oh man, where was it? I think I saw it was an SEJ. They had a stat about Google usership in the UK. I don't know how reputable the source was. So like just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, that people in the UK are using Google less because they don't trust the AI results as much. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense to me. And Google has been very like vague about the numbers that they're giving to people using the AI overviews. They won't actually give attribution in Search Console, blah, blah, blah. I think that chasing of the AI thing is gonna come back and haunt everybody. But wait, I want to say something else before, because this would be a longer point. Pepsi, also giant mistake. They were doing a campaign where they're going around to like the fast food joints, like McDonald's, Burger King, whatever, who all use Coke. Going in, someone's sitting there, on their phone, eating their Big Mac, taking their drink, throwing it, and replacing it with a Pepsi. I'd be like, what the F? What? And like, that's like good marketing. And brands do that because they think now you'll think of us as an alternative to Coke. But that's not really what you want. You don't want, like, being in people's minds is not really what you want. What you want is resonance. And the resonance that you have now is that you're annoying and you're rude and you're disgusting and I want nothing to do with you. I will now buy a Coke specifically because of that. But I'm very aware of you. I'm much more aware of you than I was yesterday. It's like when your knee hurts. I wasn't aware of my knee yesterday, but now that it hurts, I sure am, and I'm really unhappy about it.
Yeah, you'd almost rather buy a brand unconsciously and know that that's like, subconsciously making the right decision rather than having it sort of forced on top of you.
That's where brands make big mistakes also, because brand is unconscious. It's all latent it's associative. Like, I'm not a big Freudian psychologist. I do like Freudian psychology, but it's all association. Like, what's my association to Nike? What's my association to Under Armour? That's all unconscious. If I thought about it, I can verbalize it, but it's an instantaneous association that builds up. It's all latent. But back to the AI thing, the biggest mistake is that brands have lost their identity. No, take that back. Brands never had identity. They thought they did. They thought we had purpose, we had mission. And you clearly see that they don't, because the second there's some kind of AI thing, let's go do that. And then let's go do that. And let's go do that. And let's go do that. And it's going to hit a wall with all of this stuff, like you see with the Coke ads, or you see with the stat from Google. It's not going to do the thing that you're intending to do. And users are going to be like, hey, it's just not doing the thing that you told me it's going to do. And then what happens?
Yeah. And just to follow up on that, Mordy, just to sort of a nice sort of, I think it's probably part of that, especially with you guys as well. I know you guys have quite a few, but what's the process like when you're choosing like brand ambassadors? And again, what's the importance of like getting that right?
It's really, really, really important. And it's really, 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 really hard for a lot of reasons. Like, just practically speaking, you need somebody who wants to have visibility, right? Who wants to be out there, who wants to do things. Now you're already dealing with a subset of the universe. It's very difficult to deal with a lot of the time, right? Like, it's just calling a spade. Like, people who are out, sometimes people who are out there, they want to have fun, they're social, they're whatever. It's something good, just kind of build up their thing. And usually it's a mixture of both. but you really want to have somebody who's not just like trying to build up and get as many followers as possible, because then they'll say and do whatever they do, and it's not going to come up as authentic. So you kind of want to have somebody like who's really not promoting too much. If you're looking for a brand ambassador, you're trying to like profile a social media account, I wouldn't look for someone who's doing a lot of heavy promotion. I would look for someone who's having a lot of conversations with people, joking around on social media, conversing, all of those things. And that would be like the first place to start and have a conversation with them to see if like they align with what you want to do, if they're the right personality for you, and if they actually like the thing that you're doing. Like if you want to have a brand ambassador, it has to be for real, and they have to have input. It can't be one way. Okay, it can't be like, okay, we want you to promote X product. First off, they should be able to say, I don't want to promote that product. It doesn't fit what I'm doing right now. I don't like that product right now. I think it has problems. And they should be able to offer feedback on the product or the service, right? Whatever you're doing, and say, hey, look, you know what? Like, I know like I'm your ambassador. I should be able to, like, there's problems with this. I think you should fix this. And I'd rather scale back on the promotion until you fix this. It should be a two-way street. And if it's not, you have a real problem, I think, which almost all the time you don't. Usually it's a one-way street.
And how long roughly for you guys would that process take from, start to finish?
I don't know, because we don't use brand ambassadors that same way. Like we just have like I work for Wix. Like, yeah, it's just like no one's telling me to go on social and promote. Like I just do it because like, yeah, it's my podcast, so I'm gonna promote it, and then like it's good for the company. I'm gonna do that. But if you were doing that process, which I've done before in other places, like it takes a long time. It should not start. First off, it should be very public. It should be official. And brands don't get this right because everyone knows what you're doing, right? Like, oh, that person is being paid by so-and-so to do whatever. And they're not disclosing it. Disclose it. Yeah, I'm a brand ambassador for platform X, Y, and Z. So now you're going to hear a lot about X, Y, and Z from me. And it makes sense. I'm not trying to fool you. Because in all of these things, I think in social media in general, like everyone kind of knows it's a little bit of a game. But you're emotionally willing to look past the game to a certain point if certain factors are present. If like enough truth is present, I will look past the fake part and I will just focus on the truth part. So if you disclose, yes, I am working for platform X, I am their brand ambassador, and then in a week from now when you're posting about it, people will be like, okay, like they disclosed it, I get it, I now know how to take this. I know how to maybe take it with a little grain of salt, put some thought into it, because they're not just saying it organically. They're saying because they're being paid to say it. I looked at it. You know what? They're right. I agree. I'm going to click anyway. Whereas if you try to fake it, it might work in the beginning, but eventually there's going to be, I want to say like backlash. You're going to go back out, on social media and scream at you, but it'll be completely ineffective. You'll be completely ineffective. And even if people click and say, wow, great job, that might not be what they're actually thinking, which is also something you need to be careful about.
Love it.
Awesome. I know you just came off of the high of talking about AI, and I'm like accidentally going to put you back on that high. But I had a question in regards to that. You've naturally been very passionate about brand and also SEO. So my question is, moving into 2025 and beyond, how do you see the relationship between brand and SEO improving and strengthening, but also in combination with now AI being thrown into the mix and the developments that are happening with AI?
So the AI thing kind of throws brand back at the forefront. It's about like, there's so many parts of that question. I don't think brand has fundamentally changed in terms of SEO. I think SEO started to wake up to the fact that I call it like Google's a moth, and Google's attracted to whoever has the biggest digital light. So brand building is how you build that light. And I don't think anything is particularly new. I know the leaks kind of like brought brand back to the forefront of the conversation. I do think what is new is the ecosystem itself. Like the web is different, and the web is going to be different. I have a hot take that I think we're entering a digital winter where like digital becomes increasingly less effective because there's just so much noise. I'd rather just like get something in real life from a real person. That's a hot take. That's a separate conversation for a separate time, maybe. But AI kind of brings, and the whole ecosystem brings brand back into focus because you have to sort of humanize and differentiate and have that identity. And you have to be targeted. And you see that now even on the SERP, like There's tons of filters. There's the AI overviews. There's the links that you're getting are very targeted. Like you're not now, you're getting a link in the AI overview to a particular section that deals with a subtopic of the main query, right? If I like search for how to build a log cabin, and then it gives me an answer of how to build a log cabin. And it says, dummy, why are you trying to build a log cabin? What is it, 1784? And then it says, but if you were going to build a log cabin, you should use, I don't know, Maplewood. And then it has a link about Maplewood. And I'm there showing up about Maplewood. That's tangential to the actual like main query. So the ecosystem is just getting more and more like constricted and more specific. People are looking for more specific answers. The idea of like top level answers being satisfactory anymore, I don't think is I think we've matured past that. I think people realize that's just internet fluff. So the idea of brand as a concept is to have meaningful identity, which means you have to be very specific about who you are. And then when you're now translating that into targeting, being very specific about how you fit into the life situation of your user. That should be the mindset for SEO. Like that mindset, that overlap is the same thing. You're not going to ranking for the keyword shoes and casting this wide net and grabbing all this traffic. Like that is so old school. Target yourself. Like who are you going after? When are you going after them? What are you going after them for? What are you trying to get clicks on? What's relevant? What's not relevant? You see Google like saying things like stay in your lane all of a sudden, like because that's where the ecosystem is kind of heading to getting more specific answers about more specific things for more specific sources, hopefully from more specific sources. So like that is brand. That's not a separate process. That comes from brand. You can't, if your SEO team is not sitting with comms, that will never happen.
Awesome. Yeah, we've seen a lot of big hits for those sort of large websites like House of Fraser and stuff like that, where there's so many products that there can't be specific. And yeah, the websites have sort of tanked over the last couple of months or so. But yeah, Mordy, when it comes to hiring as well, how important is it that you bring on people that understand your brand? And do you have any tips for people on how they can sort of study the brand or get to know more about the brand, like pre-interview stage?
Yeah, it's really, really important, like to really understand like what the brand is all about, what the product is all about, and like how the product, again, like the positioning of the product, how the product, I define positioning basically as like a combination of like who you are, what you do, and how you fit into people's lives. Understanding how you fit into people's lives uniquely is super important. And I think like folks, when you're trying to like, I don't know, interview for a job, like you'll see like, oh, you're doing this activity, you're doing that activity, and like you have this messaging, or you have like this set of product, or I see you have a blog but really, I would say like, and I don't know, like this will matter to hiring managers or not, because it all depends on how in tune the hiring manager actually is. But if you can really understand the positioning of the company, of the product, of the service, like then you really understand everything, right? Because that's the intersection. Now you understand the audience, you understand the life context of the audience, you understand the brand and what they're all about and what their mission is and what their purpose is and how they go about doing things. Like really understanding positioning is a great way to understand like the full picture. I just wonder how often sometimes people understand that even in their own companies. I mean, like we spend a lot of time, like we have great communications and there's a lot of communicating about all these things. But I've been in companies and I've seen companies where that's not the case. So like internal comms is very, very, very important.
And how do you go into places that don't have that and sort of get that buy-in from whether it's like C-suite or executive level and go ahead and execute it?
Yeah, so I always feel like you have to like show like how like like the tie into the performance side. That's all they really, unless again like certain executives get it and you could just talk to them and they get it. So I'm assuming we're not talking about that. Yeah. Okay. You usually have to tie it into some kind of performance. Like if we do X brand activity, we will be positioned like this. And the natural consequence of being positioned like this is that, and we're lacking that. Like, and obviously you need to be a little bit more specific about that to the best you possibly can, but like really tying in like, because again, the brand side, the positioning, the meaning, all of that stuff should be what helps you when you're executing your social content SEO strategy, should be what gets you that momentum. Like if you have a great brand strategy, someone clicks on the SERP and they stay on the page, and then maybe they click into something else, or maybe they come back the next day. So it all interplays together. So if like, for example, if you're saying like, hey, like we're getting a lot of clicks, but everybody's bouncing right away. I could identify, you know, X, Y, and Z problem because people are searching for this negative brand keyword about us. And we're literally doing that in this blog post. The thing that they're searching for that we're doing negatively, they're like, why does this brand suck at this? And we do suck at that. I mean, don't say it this way. But in the blog, we're actually doing that and people are noticing. So if we switch that and we change positioning, we change gears, we would get the traffic, but we wouldn't have the bounce rate. Like really trying to like marry the two together. Probably a bad example what I just said, but whatever.
No, love it. Love it.
Interesting.
That's what I got off the top of my head.
Mordy, I like to sort of keep the sort of best question for last, and I always accidentally leave it on like the last few seconds. So my question to you is, as you've sort of, we've been touching on the relationship between brand and SEO. One thing that we've been trying to sort of cover with SEO for Hire as well is the importance of personal branding for SEOs, especially if they're looking for new roles or looking to apply for their dream companies or even freelancing. What is your take on the importance of personal branding for SEOs? And do you have any tips for SEOs that are looking to start up their personal brand online?
Yeah, so it's really important. It can open up a lot of doors for you. I'll say like my tip, probably not like so helpful, but I really want people to know this. Like, don't take yourself so seriously. All right. Like, okay, you're internet famous. Did you cure cancer? So like, take it easy there.
I love that.
That's my tip.
That. Short and sweet and powerful. I love that.
Mordy,
thank you
personal
so much.
branders are watching.
Mordy, thank you so much for coming on. These 30 minutes have just flown past. We hope that everyone that was listening enjoyed listening in. And you can also find Mordy in our links above or below or around wherever this will be uploaded. Give him a follow, and if you have any questions, pop them through as well. But yeah, Mordy, thanks so much for joining us, and all the best with Wix and Unify, and we will chat soon.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Tons of fun.
Cheers, Mordy.